And Jack, let's see, Frank Carter, I believe you drew number 1. Tim Vasquez couldn't be here today, and he's got a video that they're going to be showing, and I think he's number 2.
Oh, he can be there. Oh, how's that?
Goodness gracious, I told Miss Lacy that I need to change my name because of the alphabetical order. And let's draw names, so I'm still number 1. I don't know what to do to get away from it. Anyway, I think I speak loud enough without a microphone. Lieutenant Carter. No. My name is Lieutenant Frank Carter. I was born and raised in San Angelo, 24 years with the San Angelo Police Department, come October the 1st. My father and mother still reside in San Angelo. My father spent 30 years on the police department here in San Angelo. My sister, who also still lives here in San Angelo, spent 21 years with the San Angelo Police Department. I'm Shane Carter, 22 years. Worked for the school district for 13 years, recently retiring, and went to work for our business. 2 children, both recently graduated from Central High School, working part-time, attending college. I am a business owner and have been for 8 years. My wife, as I've spoken earlier, has left the school district to take over our business. With the private business, it correlates with the public and private sector. With that, I have learned workforce diversity, budget and invoices, time management, value of the dollar, and most importantly, the taxes that the small business payers pay to this community to keep San Angelo strong. I graduated from Central in 1986. After high school, I joined the Army National Guard. At the age of 22, I reached the rank of Staff Sergeant. Part of that time was full-time on the Texas-Mexico border. I was stationed in Laredo, El Paso, Del Rio, and San Angelo in search of drugs with U.S. customers. In 1992, I was hired by the San Angelo Police Department. I spent time as a patrolman on nights, making $7.50 an hour at the school district, working overtime. That's how we evolved since then. Canine officer, and I was a field training officer. 1999, I was promoted to a sergeant, spent time in criminal investigations as a nighttime supervisor. I was a sergeant on 2 different patrol shifts and a field training coordinator. In 2003, promoted to lieutenant. I spent 4 years in the criminal investigation division in charge of detectives, the gang unit, evidence, crime stoppers, pawn detail, and polygraph. I was then sent to Lake in the airport when the city of San Angelo absorbed that unit, and commander of all 3 patrol shifts, and the critical incident commander, which is basically the think tank of SWAT and hostage negotiation team. I was voted Supervisor of the Year by peers, Community Spirit Award for my involvement in Hunt for Heroes, which is a hunt for the wounded warriors. Presently, in charge of the northern sector of San Angelo and the largest patrol ship, K-9 Unit Commander, Lake and Airport Commander, Critical Incident Commander, and currently have 43 officers under my command, which is 1/4 of the sworn officers in the department. What I see needs to be changed and immediate is 7 steps: leadership and alignment, narcotics, hiring and retention, budget and capital improvement, other agency relationships, traffic enforcement, and patrol. I won't take all the time today speaking of each one of them, but I want to touch on patrol. Patrol is the backbone and the first responders of this city. We're currently shorthanded and always are. I'm relying on our Lake Division units. I'm relying on our K-9 units to support my patrol division on Bravo Company. We need to set a minimum standard, a minimum number. If we get to that number, we need to pull from other units within the department. A 10-hour shift that we're working now, 4 10-hour shifts is the worst shift that you can use for manpower. 6 months ago, I called the sheriff and I asked him, what do you think about a 12-hour shift? He said, that's the best decision I've made. That gives you 3 to 4 men extra per shift. The city is also, we're going to a health fitness program. I think with a 12-hour shift, we can work that in there and also supplement that. The other thing is the sector style policing that we work, our districts are too large. The computer age has outgrown us. We need to get back in the neighborhoods. I want to go back to districts. You know, these guys don't know the officers don't know the people don't know the officers. The districts are too large. We need to get back in the districts and be more personal. Narcotics, there's currently 3 narcotics detectives in this department. When I started, there was 7 to 10. I think that's the root of all evil. That's the root of all crime. It's an epidemic in San Angelo, Texas, narcotics. That division needs to be doubled, if not tripled, and we need to attack the problems. Retention and hiring. It costs $50,000 to get a recruit hired and put them through the academy, and it takes a year to get them up to standards. I can't count the number of people or officers between 2 and 10 years that have left this department that we invested that $50,000 for. We need to focus on lateral transfers. Instead of spending that type of money, you need somebody in the position that can work with me, your FER team, the city council, and bring a better benefit package to these employees so they will look at San Angelo as a lateral transfer and stop being a training ground for the city. Traffic enforcement. What do you see on the TV? You turn on the news, that's all you see is wrecks. Traffic citations are down, and they have been for the last 12 years. I'm not saying everybody needs a citation, but there's a correlation between wrecks and traffic enforcement, and that's what we're lacking in this community. In closing, I don't want to take all the time. If you have the opportunity, speak to an officer. After all, you're voting for their boss. If elected, you have my commitment to you to make San Angelo a better place. Be fair and consistent with everyone. The words that get described to me on a daily basis is, Frank, you've been fair and consistent throughout your career. That's 24 years worth. 74 years worth as a combined family experience between my father, my sister, and I. We know community service. I know how to take care of San Angelo. I ask for your vote and support May 7th. Thank you.
I'd like to say thank you to the Concho Valley Republican Women for hosting this forum and for all the important work you do for our community. I hate to have missed today because I really enjoy these forums, but I was already scheduled to host the Texas Police Chiefs Annual Conference this week. On the campaign trail, as it's been every day that I've served as chief, I've been so grateful for the encouragement I receive day after day. Those who ask you to vote for someone else are justifying that position by saying it's time for a change. But especially as Republicans, we already know we need a bit more clarification when someone asks us to vote for a change. In fact, one such change email being circulated in support of one of my opponents seems to loosely paraphrase a Harvard Business Review report you can find online. The email is suggesting that sometimes an organization needs to change for change's sake. The Harvard article talks about change being necessary when the external environment doesn't force change on the organization. But the problem with applying that logic here is that outside forces require a law enforcement organization to be in a perpetual state of change if it is to be successful. Crime and criminals evolve. In fact, it was a refusal to modernize and change that I ran against in my first election. And today, change is a daily fact of life in the department, just as it was in 2004. If what you want to vote in favor of is progress, then my administration is still the right choice. My opponents will say things ranging from the department is broken to we don't have enough manpower to pointing out what divisions they think should have more officers. But the changes they advocate, while they may sound logical on the surface, are all still the same arguments against progressive, proactive policing that we were making in 2004. The change they call for is a regression back to methodology that is outmoded and outdated. What they want in a nutshell is to put the focus back on the more officers driving around. The thought being that their presence prevents crime, or maybe they happen upon criminals in the act. Once upon a time, that's how it was done, but it's no longer effective, and the proactive tactics we have adopted work. Today in San Angelo, you're 43% less likely to be a victim of crime than you were the year before my administration started. That's the simple fact. Through the meth epidemic, through synthetic marijuana, Special K, during the population boom and the economic downturn, we have reduced crime and kept it lower than the cities around us and lower than it was before we brought the change. As an aside, I have heard more than one of my opponents insinuate that these numbers, the FBI uniform crime reports, are invalid. In fact, one opponent has a video in which they cite the Facebook meme that said San Angelo is the 8th most dangerous city and cites San Angelo Live as a source to prove that crime has drastically escalated. However, the meme originated from a TV news reporter who simply didn't understand the information they were looking at. I bring it up because it shocks me to think a candidate for San Angelo Police Chief is getting their crime stats from Facebook. The administration I have in place has reduced crime by being more proactive, by embracing intel and technology, statistics and analysis. Much as the Air Force and Goodfellow are growing while other military branches are being reduced because modern warfare is about intel and technology, stats and analytics, so it is with modern policing. This is not just my opinion. I am proud to have been elected president this year for the Texas Police Chiefs Association and to have been a featured speaker at an international conference on problem-oriented policing, selected to the Governor's Advisory Board for Homeland Security, and any number of other examples where the progress we have made here has been recognized and emulated around the state, nation, and world. However, as counterproductive as I believe to return to drive-around policing would be, that is not the largest immediate threat this time for change's sake mentality presents. And here's something you really should consider before you vote. The great risk to your receiving the response and level of service from our department that you expect is not from a lack of officers in any particular division. The risk right now is from a lack of revenue. Our department is a $17 million per year operation. $1.5 million of that is operations. The rest is payroll. Something as simple as a 50-cent change in gas prices can swing our budget by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sales tax revenues are drastically down in San Angelo for 2016. The state comptroller's office says that we are off almost 15% for the year already. To maintain your safety and services with an increased population, a low officer-citizen ratio, and while reorganizing or cutting our budget, we rely on having a leadership team with experience and acumen. Our team has been here doing the job for years. We have navigated through financial downturns before. We are ready to meet this financial challenge. Many of you know my father is retired SAPD. I went to work for the department in dispatch at 19 years old. I would have gone to work for the department at 18, but I didn't get the janitorial job I applied for then. In 2004, I became the second youngest chief ever elected. So now after 12 years as your chief, I'm the candidate in this election with the most years of service to SAPD. Yet I'm the youngest candidate running for my job. My first campaign was called Partnering with the Public, and I outlined a new, modernized department utilizing new concepts and creating a bridge of communication to improve relations with the citizens and the officers, and it has worked. However, I have stated a goal of reaching 50% reduction in crime during my tenure. If reelected, I will turn 50 in office towards the end of my next term, and I think we can make that 50% reduction before then. So I'm asking for your vote and your continued partnership so that we can go on to 50. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for having me. I'm Lieutenant Mike Hernandez. Been married to my bride Lisa for almost 29 years. We have 2 children. Joshua's 20, fixing to be 25, and Kelsey is 18. She is a freshman at ASU. I've been with the police department almost 26 years. I'm a former Marine. During my time at the police department, I have worked in just about every division that we have to offer. One of the ones I didn't want to work was juvenile detectives, because I don't want to know what it takes to get there, to get that person to give the confession. I just want the warrant to go serve it so that I can put them in jail. As a team leader of many a division, especially SWAT, which I spent 20 years. I was a team leader for 10 of those 20. I learned that the way to do the job was to work as a team. And right now, I'm sorry to say, I wish I hadn't been next, because I just have these thoughts of it can be better. It can definitely be done better. Change is not only needed, it's good. I agree a lot with Lieutenant Carter in reference to some of the policing styles that we have. We have so many different policing styles that we are the master of them. We have problem-oriented policing, community-oriented policing, sector policing, intelligence-led policing. I could go on and on. When you come back from schools and you try to get your troops to implement these things, it's not good for anybody. We have to focus on what it reminds me of is when I was in narcotics as a narcotic detective, you had 20 confidential informants calling you to get a job done. And you had to focus on the one so that you could get the job done. 40 pounds of weed coming in on the highway, 2.5 pounds of cocaine on another seizure, $50,000 worth of heroin on seizure that's still the largest heroin seizure in San Angelo that I was a part of. The lead investigator on the case, talking the narcotic supervisor into allowing SWAT to serve this warrant because the writing was on the wall that this guy had cameras, he slept with weapons, he had dogs. We needed to take care of this the best way we could, and so I relied on my troops as a team with every branch of the service covered in our teams to get this job done, to come up with the best plan, and we did, and we still ended up in a firefight. And I wish we could have stopped that. I wish we could have talked that young man into not being in that firefight, but that's where we ended up. And thankfully, we went home safe. We went home to our families. There has to be something said for term limits, despite what you just heard. There has to be something said when you're in that kind of job day to day and you have a target on your head and you're asking your family to step out with you in faith to be on the front page of the news and then being right there so that those guys can see you and find you, if you will. It says something to me when my family says yes. It's not just me that's saying yes to this. Change is needed. It's needed. I appreciate these officers. I've worked with Jeff in SWAT. It was a long time ago. I've worked with Lieutenant Carter my entire career. We basically grew up together on the streets. This takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. Something has to be wrong with my home away from home, because that truly is my home away from home. I spend more time there sometimes than I do at home. The political process, oh my goodness, it is, it's tiring. It's tiring, and when you don't see your child, my youngest is still at home, when you don't see your wife that you're used to spending time with, and then when you're getting attacked because you miss a form because you were already committed to either church or family, I'm sorry, it's who I am. I would just be talking the talk and not walking the walk if I didn't stay true to those commitments. I know that as the chief of police, I can bring that change from the top down. Every unit, our SWAT team was considered the best small department SWAT team in the state of Texas by the Texas Tactical Police Officers Association. When I went to the FBI National Academy in 2014, what I learned there was that I was doing the job right. The FBI National Academy is a prestigious school for leaders from around the world. 27 countries, 47 states represented. NYPD, LAPD. I could go on and on about the troops that were there. I was number 250 in the class. I truly, truly was just humbled to be there. And what I learned, I was doing it right. When you had a captain from Maricopa County coming up to you and asking you, how did you implement that program in reference to a family academy, which we have no more. We only did one. There was 16 ladies in that academy that want to do it. They want to be part of the next one, because I believe that the family, the spouses, the parents, they need to know what their officers are going through, so that if they lose a child in their arms at 2 in the morning and they get home and they're angry at their kids or they're snapping back at their wife, they have some kind of concept about what's going on. So we put them in these classes with a chaplain and a psychiatrist and veteran wives that have been there and done that. I don't just talk about it, I do it. When we say that we are short-staffed on patrol. On a couple weeks ago, as close as a couple weeks ago, I was saying we only had 6 officers. Now this is to include a sergeant, maybe 2, and a lieutenant, if the lieutenant's there and not taken off so that he can do politics. But that many officers after 2:30 in the morning. So as a lieutenant that spends about 80% of the time behind the desk, and you finally get out, and you're asking your troops, I need a coin-operated burglar tonight. I need one. We average 2 and 3 a night in this county. And that includes washaterias, car washes, the water mills, 2 and 3 a night. Why aren't we catching a burglar? And so lo and behold, I'm going home at 4 in the morning. I look over to the car wash on MUN and Bryant behind the Kentucky Fried Chicken. You guys all know where it's at. And there's a guy running. He's running away from the corner. They're open. I can see that they've been damaged, and he's burglarized them. I make the UE. I turn off the lights. And I said, headquarters, send me a unit. I've got a guy running. Now, if you know me and you know who I am, you know that I stepped down from my SWAT team of 20 years, which I truly, truly miss that team. But I didn't want to ruin my knee again. I got a new knee. And so here is my first chase, my first chance to catch a bad guy. Well, I caught him. And so all the young guys get there and they want to high-five me and they want to go, way to go, LT. And I'm business. I just need one of you to transport for me, because supervisors don't transport their own. And as they're looking at the back seat of the car, they're like, how old is that guy? What does that have to do with anything? I caught him, okay? Well, he was 65. What I would say in reference to that is I have to build this up. I will drop down to the 50s hopefully soon. But the reason I bring that up is because I'm not just talking about it. I'm doing it. I'm getting dirty with these guys, and they love it. The officers on the street love when a 26, 25-year vet is out there working with them. I would appreciate y'all's vote on May 7th. I'm Mike Fernandez. Thank you very much.
Well, everybody stole my thunder, but not quite. My name is Jeff Davis, and I was a police officer here at San Angelo for a little over 22 years. After that, I went to work for the Department of Air Force out of Goodwill Air Force Base. Spent about 3.5 years out there as a civilian police officer. Since then, I've entered a couple of businesses to try to learn everything that I needed to learn. I ran a campaign back in 2008, unsuccessfully. I didn't know what I was doing. I was very much a rookie, and that's when these officers had come to me and said, you know, you'll never quit, you'll always be the guy that just keeps going forward. And I'm like, man, I was doing fine. You know, I was in narcotics. I was, you know, arresting bad guys daily and doing the right thing. And then I figured, well, if I retire, then I can do a campaign legally, you know, because basically you're not supposed to campaign in uniform on duty by civil service rule. So anyway, that's what I did. I made the sacrifice when I was not ready to get out of the police department. So I've been spending all this time trying to get back in. I think everybody here is here for a reason. They want change. Change is good, freshen up politicians. We see it across the nation in Congress. You know, they stay there so long, some of them get lost, you know, growing up. We know that. Another thing is we need to take our city back. our city has been lost to criminals. We have a exuberant amount of property crimes, which is gonna affect most people here. 1 in 24 people in San Angelo will be affected by crime pretty much every year. There's only one city of a study done across the nation of a city our size that basically beats us in crime, and it's like by 15 crimes, and that's Yuma, Arizona. The thing about Yuma, Arizona is it has an interstate and is a border town. So what does that tell us? We're isolated here in the middle of the desert, and yet we have the crime that we have. The only thing that we're less on is aggravated assault and robberies. Well, those are kind of hard to predict. It's hard to prevent. So my question is, what are we doing wrong? Well, everything at the police department, as the chief said, somebody said, and that was me, is broke. But there's nothing broke that we can't fix. Everything from the staffing, and everybody touched on it as far as patrol. Patrol is a foundation. We had 8 districts back when I was working there, retired in '07, and we covered things very well. Sometimes we had as many as 4 or 5 extra rovers with 137 officers. What's wrong? The structure's broke. Now we have around 160, and we have a lot in training. So we need to get that back. That's one of the deals. Another one is, I think you need a hands-on chief. I'm gonna be driving in a patrol car, looks like everybody else's. I'll be accessible to the public. If you have an issue that's a legitimate one, I'll come out and visit with you, and we'll try to work it out together as a community and a police department. I just, I'm an outsider. I've been an insider. I own a business, a successful one. Matter of fact, that's how we're able to finance our campaign. I've taken donations back to people that have sent them in the mail. We spent tens of thousands of dollars on this, and we really mean it. Our heart's in it. We feel like God gave us the money, and we're gonna use it for the right purpose. So, I know that I can fix everything. A lot of things I can fix quickly. Some things are gonna be a year, maybe 2 years down the road. The money issues. Every year, the police department goes over budget. A lot of it's unforeseen problems. Like Corby Kennedy's funeral, which was an issue, wasn't a problem, but it was an issue. And so all the overtime involved in that, to have that funeral and such. But you need a budget for that. I run a business, I've ran one before, and we always prepare. I've never ran over budget, and I don't think the city should either, because those are your hard-earned tax dollars. And I'll promise you that I will do my best to meet or come under budget, and that'll be a concept that we've never seen before. I'm good at purchasing. I've done purchasing, HR. I worked for a rather large construction company for a couple of years, oil field construction, and that's how I started my business. I have my wife here, Alicia, with me today, and as was said, I have a daughter that just went to the Marines. She got out of the Air Force, went to the Marines. Don't know why. I guess she's crazy like me. But anyway, I have a 9-year-old daughter, Jessica. She's an awesome little girl. And anyway, this is all a family affair, and I hope that y'all will dig down deep in your heart and see that change is needed. There's no reason why we can't be number one. We're 104 in the nation of safest cities. Somebody's number one. Why can't it be us? We're not even in the top 50 safest cities in Texas. Why can't it be us? I mean, there's no reason. Shoot for the moon. Maybe you'll hit the stars. But that's what we need. We need a hard worker. You need a chief that's going to be there every day, not behind a door or a desk. He needs to be out there to see how his men and women are interacting with other people and how the calls are being made, how the search warrants are being executed. If you can civilianize some jobs in the department and save the department money, then you need to. Why would you want a badge behind a desk that never enforces the law? There's a lot of just minor changes. We're not going to cost you a lot of money. The budget's big enough as it is, so we'll see what we can do. about, making more happen with less. So I'll close right now, but I am the right person, I'm doing it for the right reason, and it is the right time for change. Thank you very much, and God bless you. I turned it over.
He turned me on. Boy, do y'all have a tough decision to make. We're gonna turn it over to questions and answers. If any of you have a certain question that you would like to ask one of the candidates, we'll take questions and answers at this time. Okay, Anna? Would y'all come up here, please? And I'll let you pass the mic.
Brains first.
Number one.
I'll do it.
What's the planes that's predicted or projected to come through San Angelo? What effect will that have?
It's gonna have a big effect. There again, like I kind of touched on the interstate issue. Anytime you have an interstate, you have a lot of people that are coming from other places and moving through, criminals included, drugs included. We're only 150 miles from the border, so we already know that with property crimes, we are infiltrated, saturated with drugs. They come hand in hand, property crimes with, they have to, steal the property to support their habit. So being 150 miles away, and then we have that corridor coming through here, the San Angelo Police Department better get ready, because it's coming, and if they think crime is high now, it's only gonna get higher if you don't do anything and prepare yourself. But it's, there again, that lackadaisical attitude, if I don't see it, it didn't happen. I guarantee you, they better get their heads out of the ground and start looking around, because that's a very serious issue.
I'll follow the footsteps of Mr. Davis. Not so much drugs, it will intensify. I mean, they're already finding the ways now. We're kind of hidden secret through the back roads, if you will. I think more so with transients and that type of thing with the ports of planes. If you do some studies on cities that have the interstate or that type of flow through their cities, it will increase as far as theft, transient type problems, and those type of issues. Yes, drugs will intensify as well.
And we're in agreement. I talked about the 40 pounds of marijuana that I listened to a confidential informant coming in on the highway that we were able to capture these guys. There is no doubt, an interstate comes through here, we're going to, we may have to go to the city council and the city entity that makes the town run, that we need more troops, more money to combat that. It's gonna come. Everyone knows that it just makes it easier for them to transport their drugs and to transport the things that they need to do in their business. But I'm in the business of police business, and I know how to fight. I was a narcotic detective for 6 years. I went down to Houston to do 39 crack cases, looking like I do with a little bit of hair on my chin. We can do this. We can fight. We can fight where it needs to be fought.
Is there anyone else? Anybody else have a question?
Well, I just was gonna ask, because you told the story, why your burrito?
So in the early 90s, we had a gang problem here in San Angelo, if you remember, if you lived here. We had up to about 30 gangs documented in San Angelo, about 800 confirmed gang members in our database. When you work them, they realize who's working them. We had a
800 here?
I'm sorry?
800 here?
Yes, yes. And they're on the rise again. This vicious cycle is coming as far as their uncles or dads that were in prison are coming back and telling them, you're not going to get in trouble, we need you to do this store robbery or whatever it may be. But again, a lot of great officers here in San Angelo. We have captured every one of those guys that have done the robberies recently. But 6-man unit back in the early 90s. We now have a special operations unit that's attached to narcotics that works gangs as well, and there's just a couple of them. That's another part. Patrol, narcotics, gangs, it's where we need the troops. And if we don't stay on top of them, gang members are like cockroaches. They're gonna come out when the light's out, you turn the light on, you put them back in their place. So the Latin Kings, back to the question, was that they, I didn't mean to share their name because we don't want to give them any, please, the media folks did not give them that. They gave me that nickname when I was working at the Carbon Learning Center back in the early 90s.
Well, tell them about the sign of the guy that you went to put, ask him if he would put a sign up for you. And you said something, and he said, you said something about burrito, and he said, "You're a burrito?" You know, he didn't know Mike Hernandez, all he knew was burrito.
Yeah, and actually one of those I think is a little more comical was my wife and I went to a breakfast at Roxy's not too long
Yeah, that's
ago.
what I was talking
And
about.
I've been going for a while, and Roxy and her daughters, it was brunch, it wasn't too busy. And I said that would be a prime location for my signs, and she said, "What sign?" And I said, "Mike Hernandez for Chief of Police." And she said, "You're Mike Hernandez, we only know you as Burrito." So I did ask my campaign manager to put Burrito on the sign, but it's not politically correct.
Now that you mentioned the 800 gang members.
You want to join?
No. Not yet. So is that normal?
Every town,
Well,
every
I mean,
town,
that seems like an inordinate amount of,
every town has their 5%, always. We know this as you know, going to the FBI Academy with these officers, and we'd sit for meals and we'd visit, we talk about our problems. Everybody has the same problems. At a stroke of a key, we're having say a taser issue. I can get these guys to send that information to us. But everybody has the same 5%. And then what's crazy is, for as long as we've been doing it, we're starting to work on the third generation. I've arrested my brother, my father, and my father-in-law during my career. I broke the cycle. They can break it too. And every now and then when you have a former gang member come up to you and tell you, "This is my family, I wanted to introduce you, I'm working here, I made it, I turned it around just like you told me when I was in the backseat of your car," that's amazing to be part of that.
so we every day calling the gang members and we don't even know it?
Probably so, yes ma'am. And we can't go around, it's not illegal to be a gang member, it's illegal to do the crimes that gangs do.
So you want to see your family?
I dare say we've all been retaliated on during our careers from bad guys.
But I mean, your family?
You arrested your family, is what you said.
Oh, well, when you're doing a bank robbery, you've got to go to jail, and that's from dope. My dad hurt a little girl, he's gonna go to jail. I've got a cousin on the run in Mexico, tied to the cartel. He says, "Don't come down here, I'll take you out." Ditto, don't come here.
Question on the new police building, is there any thoughts you'd like to share that I might have heard what you have to do?
Going back to the gangs, let me touch on that one more time. We've all got nicknames. On the east side of town, I was McGruff, the crime dog. On the west side of Shabern, I'm Boss Hog. But we've neglected the gangs here in San Angelo. I'm sure all you heard about the robberies at the convenience stores not long ago. That's a new group of kids I say, 13 to 17, pulling guns. We actually put the show support officers over, or the special operations officer, which are 3, to help the narcotics unit. We have neglected the gang database for over a year. So now we're chasing our tail, trying to figure out who these kids are. We're behind times now. We should have been on top of that, and we should have known that these kids were coming. But they were the ones doing the aggravated robberies at the convenience stores. And we have no information, no intelligence on those kids. And kids, I'll say that.
Are they in school?
Some of them are, many of them aren't, or they're going to Carbon Learning Center or dropped out. But it will floor you about what goes on in San Angelo about the youth in this community. So many things you're not aware of. A lot of you see on the news, but there's so many things that you're not aware of. Question about the police department?
Any comments on the building of the new police department?
I've been on a few of those discussions with the police department. I know the city has purchased the bank building and property there. As far as my standpoint, I think that we need to look and be with the city council and the department heads and look at the cost as far as renovation versus demolishing and new. I've toured the building. It looks good to me. I don't know if that's the city's direction, that that's what they want to do with the police department. I know it's going up for the capital improvement plan, so it all depends on the public and what y'all want to do. We do need a new police department. I encourage each one of you to go, come down there and look at it. I've been going there since I was a little kid. It's the heating, cooling, and everything else is a disaster, but we do need new. So I want to get in there with the city and look at what the opportunities are and look at cost.
I agree with Frank. If we can save the taxpayers money and it's a sufficient building, I've also been in the building. My mother worked there for 20 years in that building, the bank building. But a new building, it'd be nice, but times are tough across the board. And with the downturn in oil, we're on the edge of the oil industry, but we're still a part of it in the Permian Basin. I do oil field construction. We build roads and paths. But we don't need a bond election. I mean, people are getting tired of being taxed and taxed. I mean, my property taxes in my house alone has gone up 500% in 10 years. I mean, and I made it look better for the neighborhood. Picked it up, cleaned it up, made a home out of it. You shouldn't be penalized for stuff like that. But this building, it's sufficient. It's got enough square footage. And I believe it'll be a good move to keep it, renovate it, and not worry about a brand new building.
In my opinion, we don't need too much of a building for the police officer. They should be outside, not in the building. And I also want to say, I rarely see police officers. I see highway patrolmen and all, but I don't see police officers in places where I think sometimes they should be. Maybe you don't have enough of them. I've never had a problem. I live in the Bluff, but for 20 years I've lived there. Last year, somebody stole my concrete rabbit. That really chapped my hide.
They stole my Yeti cooler. And I didn't want to get online and make a report. I wanted to see it.
I made a report. I made a report. Nobody ever answered it.
I'm getting that a lot, that people aren't showing up on calls. Having an accredited police department, per se, as we do with our little stickers on the car, the thing about it is, that's set up more for cities like northeast of Dallas-Fort Worth. They have a lot less square miles, and the sectors split up 4 sectors. That'd be like the way our districts used to be. It's like a fish in a bowl. You throw a fish in a bowl, you see him go around, he sees you see him all the time, take the fish, throw him in the lake, you'll never see him again. It's too big, the sectors are too big, and everybody's touched on it. We've got to shrink them down. Like I said, we had 8 districts before. We had all those filled almost all the time, and then we had 3 or 4 or 5 rover units that bounced between districts. So what does that tell you? It tells you that they keep making the upper end kind of fat, robbing on patrol. We need to put them back and get our foundation back together.
I touched on it earlier. Technology has basically outgrown us with the computer age and the phones and everything else. We need to get back to basics. And I've had many people that grew up in this community, they ask, how can we get San Angelo like it used to be? We used to see the police officer, they used to come by and talk to my kids at youth and everything else. And that's what I touched on about districts. That's what we used to do. Now we're in sectors. The sectors are large. We need to go back to the basics. As sad as it sounds, and as Tim called it, I think it's a good thing. I want to get those officers back in the community, so you know the officer and the officer knows you. It gives ownership to that officer. When I worked a beat and there was a burglary in that area, I took offense to it. And I tracked that person down on myself. I didn't rely on a detective, nobody else. It was me. I took offense to that. And now with sectors, they're so large, there's 4 sectors. I'm in charge of 2 of them, one up north and one out the lake. They're huge. They're usually 2 to 3 officers per sector, and they're large. The whole north side is a sector from north of East-West Freeway. That is a sector which includes the Bluffs, entire north side, east and west of Chapel, and everywhere else. That's huge. That's why you don't see that officer over there, and I want to change that.
And again, sector policing. Sector 3 is the area I'm responsible for. Downtown, out to the mall, and if the officer goes too fast, we're gonna get on him. And if he's responding to a call to help you. But he's absolutely right. The computers can tell us all day long that there were so many burglaries in this area, burglary of motor vehicle, burglary of habitation. But unless that officer knows his beat, his area, and again, coming through the neighborhood, Santa Rita, it's one of our hardest hit areas in town. 2 months ago, 3 juveniles, 4 a.m. They have no business being out at 4 a.m. anyway, but they don't even live in the area, and they're burglarizing my pastor's oldest son's car, and I catch them. Those officers need to get back to, that's the way we do business. You may know from a piece of paper that tells you these are the stats, this is where things are going on, but unless they take pride and ownership of that and see that from the top, not as a manager, but as a leader, somebody that leads by example and shows them how to do it, then you're just not gonna get any by. And we are short-staffed. If those officers, after 2:30, think about how many officers I talked about. If they're on a major crash, and then we have a store robbery, we've gotta get somebody out of bed. And that lieutenant better get out from behind his desk and get on a call. And on New Year's Eve, as I responded to a call, I felt responsible, just like Frank's talking about. I felt terrible that the lady that I responded for assault in progress, no officers were available. I jumped up from behind the desk, said, I'm en route. I felt like it took too long to get there because she looked like she was in a fight with Mike Tyson. And it hurt me because I became a police officer to combat family violence because that's what my dad used to do. And thankfully, I've never touched my wife because I'm afraid that she might cut me.
Thank y'all for coming. Everyone get out and vote on May 7th. We do have a few announcements. The directories that we have, they will be coming out soon. They're at the printer. So if you are a CBRW member, you will be getting a directory at the next meeting. If you want to become a CBRW member, please see Janet, wherever she's at. There. $25 a year. The name tags were delivered from Angelo Awards during the lunch hour, so if you ordered a name tag, please see me after the meeting. On the table, you should have 2 lists. One is they're both our projects that we're taking on this year. One is the American Patriotism, where we're sending boxes to the troops. We'll send them every quarter. We're planning on sending those in May. Ginger Moore will box those up, and she has provided a list of items that she suggested. And then also on the table is another list for the Rainbow Room. We took that on as a new project to help the children in the community. And I don't know what's on the list, but that, Linda Martin's doing that, and she will be at the next meeting if you want to bring your items then. I had a note from Rhonda Lacey. She's the TFRW Vice Chair, and she is wanting everyone to get on the Texas GOP website, and they have a button on there that says Texas Strike Force. So if you're not pleased with how some of these other states are voting for president, Congress, Senate, any of those items, You can sign up with the Texas Strike Force, and they will help you either become a phone bank person for another state, Colorado, Mexico, or if you want to go out door to door, they'll help you get set up to do that. It's at your own expense. But she did say that she is looking at putting together a Texas Strike Force that will be phone banking. So we'll be calling there. Also, there's little buttons you can punch on there where you want to help out. You can do out of state, or if you want to do in Texas. We have a lot of blue cities in Texas, so we need to work those cities: Corpus, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston. So again, they'll be doing phone banking for those areas, and they also will be going out door to door, getting out the vote. So sign up for Texas Strike Force. You don't have to participate, but maybe at least you can get some information and see what you can do to help. Rhonda also said that she had as membership for the TFRW that our goal was to have 77 members. No, our goal was 83 members, and we have 77 right now, I think. Correct? Yes. So we need 6 more people to join. She suggested if you have grandma over in Ballinger, have her join, or if you have someone else. So the thing is, they don't have to be able to come to the luncheons, but they do get our good information that we have, that we send out. So if you have other family members, she suggested we encourage our members to have other family members join. So we can find 6 people to join. We'll meet our goal by April 1st. And on that too, there's also a new campaign they're having for the grassroots that we can, as a club, get honored at. So if you are a member of the Texas Grassroots Club, which again is on the Texas GOP website, you donate at least, I think, about $8 and something cents a month by your credit card or debit card, then you can be a member of the Texas Grassroots, and the Texas GOP won't be calling you every evening during supper. That doesn't mean federal, just Texas. Rhonda also mentioned to make sure your members are getting the state bullet points every other month, the President's newsletter from the TFRW. If you're not getting those, check with Janet for your email address, and she will get those updated with the state. We are trying to send out monthly newsletters, so if you're not getting the newsletter from Beth and I, from what the club's doing, also get with Janet. We like Janet. Okay, state convention for Republican Party is May 12th to 14th. They have all kinds of information online if you want to go to the texasgop.org. You can look it all up. The Tea Party's next meeting will be April the 12th. Do you know who's speaking?
Yes, candidates.
Candidates, okay. The city candidates will be speaking at the Tea Party. And the Packader Club will be April the 20th. Our next meeting will be, I have that written down here, April the 28th, and we will be meeting at the Bentwood Country Club next meeting. So if don't come here, go over to the Bentwood. Pull out your little red sticker. And dinner on Drew is going to, last 3 digits, 399. Yay! Come up and take your picture. Anybody have any other announcements? No announcements? Oh, yes.
I would like to invite everybody for the April 14th at the library. 6 to 9 is a debate to the candidates for the city and the police chief department.
And that's with who?
6 and the library, central library.
April 14th at 6 at the central,
Yes,
the
third floor.
and the 3rd floor of the library downtown.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other announcements? Well, thank y'all for coming, and we will see you next month at Bentwood Country Club.
Yeah. I'm glad I did because I've already got